Hello and welcome. As a student, enthusiast, or practitioner of Krishnamurti Paddhati, I'm sure you are already aware that the KP framework is very closely linked to the vimshotarri dasha. Now, this relationship leads to many interesting outcomes. And one of these that we are going to discuss today provides an easy method to map the significant periods of a person's life to the mahadasha, antar-dasha, and pratyantar-dasha. Now, the technique that we are going to discuss today is not mentioned in the KP. It just emerges from within the KP rules. So before I get into a more detailed explanation, I would want to call your attention to what Professor Krishnamurti mentioned about a couple of things in his book, in his fifth reader. That's a book on transit. So the first thing that he has mentioned is this one, where he says that while doing his research on the KP rules, he says that then it struck me that as long as stellar theory is correct, instead of taking sign, take the star to represent dasha and the sub to indicate the bhukti. So this clearly indicates the relationship between the vimshotarri dasha and the star lord and the sub lord. Another thing that he has mentioned in the same book is about the star lord and the sub lord. So what he says is that if the constellation is compared, constellation means the star lord, is compared to the bed of the river, then the ups and downs in the bed of the river is similar to the sub. We know this theory that the star lord indicates certain houses, and so that's more like a promise. That's more like a potential that this would come up during that particular period of that planet. But whether the outcome is going to be negative, positive, neutral, is it going to fizzle out, or is it going to convert into some kind of a more developing story? So this is all decided by the sublord. Easy example is that if a planet is let's say indicating houses related to the marriage, then many stuffs related to marriage, especially if a person is in his marriageable age, and so many things related to marriage could come up, like some matrimonial prospects might start showing up, or there might be some outreach for negotiations between the parents, and some communication might start happening. So those kind of a thing. So at the star lord level, the signification indicates the promise or the potential of a certain event, and the sublord actually decides what is actually going to happen. But this is very important at this stage for you to remember that the signification does indicate that something related to that specific combination is going to pop up, is going to draw your attention, it is going to call your focus during that time. So we are going to make use of both of these KP rules, and let's see how by combining this with this can help us in creating a map of significant periods of a person's life that can easily be mapped to the dasha, bhukti, and antara. So this is what's is all expected from the predictive side of the KP framework. So we are going to apply the mapping rules to this horoscope and on this signification table. From the earlier slide, we know that the star lord is the Dashanath and sublord is the Bhuktinath. And the star lord just shows the promise, and the sublord indicates the positive, negative, and that the empty parenthesis means it could be neutral also. So let me write this as the Dasha Lord, and this as the Bhukti Lord. Okay. So I hope you know that this the way Dasha is calculated, the same rule is applied to all the 9 planets for preparing this the table of signification. Now in KP, the whatever is promised by the star lord, or we can say the Dasha lord, is actually given by this planet, right? The planet that is deposited in the star lord or the Dasha lord. Okay, so let's modify this rule a bit further, and rather than saying that the star lord as Dasha lord and sublord as Bhukti lord, which they are, but just for the sake of making things easier, we can also say that this planet, which means we can say this planet. By this planet, what is meant is this or this or this. Okay. And what kind of result this planet is promising? We can say that promises or the potential. Or the potential shown. So this planet Ketu shows these kind of promises or the potential, and then finally the plus minus rule we can put over here, the plus minus thing, and then I have created an additional column, and I'm going to name it as the when. What does this when means? When means that whatever results are promised by this planet, when they are going to show up in the Dasha Antar potential timeline. Now here you must remember that a particular event might fizzle out, it might not happen, but the potential or the promise of that event will happen during the when a planet becomes active. For example, when a planet is indicating the houses, like I mentioned, marriage related houses, then things related to marriage could pop up in a very serious manner, not a casual manner, because that these signification indicate that a particular the life is having a focus on a particular event. This combination, any combination, can give rise to so many events at one point of time, and then eventually the what we call as the bhukti lord or the sub indicates whether the event is going to happen or it's not going to happen. So actually your when will become when, it means Ketu and Saturn. So these particular things will have a sharp focus in this person's life, whether it's going to fizzle out, whether it's going to be positive or negative, but these matter will come up sharply and will draw this person's attention. And this will happen during the Ketu Saturn period. I hope this is clear to you, that why I've taken Ketu Saturn period. Similarly for this, we'll take Venus and Ketu. So basically what we are doing is that we are taking the planet and then we are taking the sublord. So this is how then we can prepare the list of the combination over here. I would not call it as Venus Dasha or Ketu antar-dasha. I will not call it that for a practical reason. Now in this chart, the person is going through the Saturn mahadasha. Okay, so this person is going through the Saturn mahadasha. So if we want to identify what's going to happen during the Ketu Saturn period, that means during Saturn mahadasha, Ketu antar-dasha, and then Saturn pratyantar-dasha, right? So MD is mahadasha, Ketu is antar-dasha, and PD is the pratyantar-dasha. So let's look at this combination. So we know that some of these combinations are very obvious. For example, the 1, 4, 3, 10. This combination indicates something related to the sale of property. This is a very prominent kind of a combination for the sale of property. Now let me once again emphasize over here. We don't know whether the sale is going to happen or not because there are so many other factors. But we can be sure that during this period, Saturn mahadasha anyway is going through Saturn mahadasha. So Ketu antar-dasha and Saturn pratyantar-dasha, things related to the property will definitely pop up. There is going to be something in the air. The person might reach out to the real estate brokers or might take some proactive interest in sale of some property. This is one of the several things that might happen during the Saturn mahadasha, Ketu antar-dasha, and the Saturn pratyantar-dasha. Though we know from the sublord that this is not very promising, and it indicates all kind of a roadblock. But my idea over here is that even if we ignore this, we know that during this particular combination, these things are going to pop up, things related to the property. Then again you see in the Venus period, which we will write. I am deliberately using the word as Venus period, not the dasha or antar-dasha or pratyantar-dasha. We'll say Saturn MD and then Venus antar-dasha and Ketu pratyantar-dasha. So you can again take a look at these combinations, these things, whatever things are these combinations show are definitely going to come into the focus or in this person's life, and then finally it might fizzle out not. But when you are writing a a predictive a story or a predictive timeline, then you can always point out that this thing, that during this period, this thing will show up. Now, one of the questions one might have, that what is the role of the mahadasha? So let's look at the role of the mahadasha. This is the role of the mahadasha. A mahadasha could be good or could be bad, neutral or mixed. For example, if a person is in a marriageable age and mahadasha happens to be neutral, then also it can promise a marriage in a person's life. Okay, because Saturn is not related to 2, 7, 11, it doesn't mean that the person is not going to get married, unless and until the mahadasha nath is very negatively showing denial of marriage. 1, 6, 7, 1, 6, 10, those kind of a house very strongly, then it indicates a denial. Even then, even if there is a denial, and then in the antar-dasha, the, let's say, 2, 7, 11 pops up, then you can say that during this period there will be some attempts that will be made towards some matrimonial or marriage related stuff, though of course the mahadasha is not promising that kind of a thing. So this is how you can map all these periods to a specific set of events in a person's life. One more thing you have to understand is that there's so many things that happen in a person's life. We only know, or we only set our focus on usually, main primary kind of events like marriage, property, disease, accident, childbirth, those kind of a thing. But it would be very interesting to identify these periods, and once you get the dasha, antar and pratyantar, then the span of that period becomes a very small, maybe few months only. So that way, then you know that within this few months of time, certain events of because of certain combinations might pop up. So this will also help you to understand how this combination gives rise to more other type of events other than what we usually know. So if you get hold of your family member chart, and if you are the kind of person who is fond of creating a list of or someone who records the dates related to some important events in life. I've seen many of my friends, they keep a diary, and anytime I ask them for a list of events in their life, they send me like a list of 40-50 events, and that's so wonderful of them. And this is very helpful in finding out how a particular set of the house grouping is playing out. This alone is not sufficient. There are the aspects and other things also involved in creating a combination in Krishnamurti Paddhati. So when you start mapping these events the way I have shown you, then it becomes easier for you to understand the other results that a particular combination might be showing. So now we know that the Saturn mahadasha, Ketu antar-dasha and Saturn pratyantar-dasha is one such period that has some important message for this person. Similarly, for all other periods, you can do this for all these periods. And even if you are looking at, for example, if you look at the Saturn mahadasha, then some of the things are obvious to you, that this period is going to be not very conductive for the health as a mahadasha nath, you see, because the combination 8, 6 and 1, this is available. So then you can easily identify up to the pratyantar-dasha level that what kind of a periods are going to be good or bad health wise in this person's life. So I hope this is clear to you, and now let's go to the Jyotish portal where we will look at the Saturn mahadasha, Ketu antar-dasha, Saturn pratyantar-dasha, and another Saturn mahadasha, Venus antar-dasha, Ketu pratyantar-dasha. How you can identify these periods in the dasha timeline. It's easy. In the Jyotish portal, when you have calculated the horoscope, then all you have to do is to go to the dasha, antar and pratyantar. So when you click on it, it's going to give you the dasha, antar and pratyantar for that horoscope. And from the previous slide, we noted that Saturn mahadasha, Ketu antar-dasha, Saturn pratyantar-dasha is when something related to the real estate activity might happen. So let's identify the Saturn mahadasha, Ketu antar-dasha and Saturn pratyantar-dasha. Since this person is already going through Saturn mahadasha, Ketu mahadasha might be over, but let's see. Let's actually identify the span. So Saturn, Ketu and Saturn. So let's look at the Saturn, Ketu and. So if you look at Saturn, Ketu, and then within that Saturn, right? Saturn, Ketu, Ketu, Saturn, Ketu, Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars. Out of all Saturn, Ketu sub periods, this particular period which happened, which is about, if you look carefully, it's just like from 10th of December to let's say 10th of February, so which is about 2 months. So this 2 month of the span of 2 months, that is what you can identify, and then you can let that person know that things related to this particular nature are going to pop up during this particular period. This is a very small window, not a big window, but this is how then you can map the entire dasha, antar and pratyantar to see. Even if you don't know what's going to happen, even then you can just identify the dasha, antar and pratyantar and just let the person know that these are some important periods in that person's life and something might happen. And or if you look at your family members, then sometimes you will not be able to identify that or predict ahead of time that what's going to happen, because some combinations are obvious, some combinations are not obvious, and when that period is over, then only you can relate it to the house grouping or the signification. So I hope you find this easy. Do some practicals and share your comments with me. Thanks for watching.